some bragging rights coming up in a moment.
Time to get started, guys. All right, Shib, it's official. I have all the Infinity Stones of the OG American casters, and you have joined in on the gauntlet as we join in on this pick and ban phase. I'm so happy to be alongside you, man. And it's no surprise, we saw a lot of prio bans on Gambit, but on the other side of Nightmare, we see them prio that Daredevil with the Protect on the Daredevil themselves. And one thing I have to note here, Shib, Mace said, a lot of our pick and ban phase, there's been a lot of thought and time spent into this just to break it down and analyze it. He said, if our pick and bans do not make sense, don't worry, have faith, because there's a reason behind it.
A method to the madness, if you will. And yeah, shout out, we have completed our gauntlet. I'm stoked to be here with you, buddy, as we do see the lock-in of Gambit. No surprise there. Daredevil, obviously incredibly strong, probably one of the best dive characters in the entire meta right now. And the removal here of Rogue, that's simply because when you have that Gambit team up, she is a next-level hero.
I like that. It also kind of forces out the ban, right? Because when you see the Protect on the Gambit, you don't want to have that extra damage. I feel you actually were the one that said it, Shib, where when you allow the Rogue to get through, Rogue just goes up an entire other tier with that team up.
Yeah, it's because when you use that team up, even when you use one of your piercing kicks, it enables an extra burst of damage on every hero hit. So if the team is stacking and you throw one kick through, it can almost virtually one-shot the backline, and you have two of them ready right off the rip. So you got to remove it. Definitely notches her up a tier. And the lock-in of Strange here, talking about some weird stuff. I like to see that.
Okay, and then with the Vantage ban coming out next, and the Protect on Strange means that, yeah, We Lost may have also done some homework, because they're noting, okay, well, if Nightmare want to prevent them from trying to recontest on the point, which is incredibly important, by the way, on domination, they don't want to risk anything. But the Elsa has kind of been the server admin in a lot of our games, and they go for the Elsa ban next. But it's interesting, because can you imagine if Yeah We Lost ended up protecting the Elsa there? They're prioritizing trying to recontest on these points rather than maybe that damage output instead.
Yeah, that might have been the deepest we've ever seen Elsa go into this pick and ban phase so far in the preseason without being locked, and instead Strange being locked, right? And they're going to remove Strange. That is a genius plan. I've always shouted that out on certain maps because you can guarantee a retake on things like Central Park. But in domination, if your team gets wiped at the end, you need to have that portal available. And if you can ensure it happens for your team and not for the opposition, that is kind of a big brain play. And talking about 5D chess, that is the way. I'm looking forward to seeing how this shakes out.
Ooh, Tank will coming right back to the mix. Mace is ready for it. We see Daredevil 2 on Nightmare's side. But something else that we were talking to some players about, the resurgence of Ultron coming back into fruition has been something that we're seeing in the triple strat lineup. Now, another question mark we've also seen after watching the series with Sentinels just yesterday is, with these ultimate nerfs on the terms of energy and how long it takes to get these ultimates online, is the triple strategist really viable right now?
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of still up for debate, right? I'm with you 1,000%. It's, 20% reduction in ultimate charge, but it kind of changes per specific type of hero. When you're a strategist, you actually take the biggest hit in just your neutral gain of that ult charge. So if you're sitting around, you won't be seeing your ult charge nearly as fast. So they have to be more involved in order to get those ults faster. And I personally love that change, but that's why you do see less impact of those ultimates and why it kind of takes away from that triple line. But you can see double Hulk, Monster showing the cap, some different stuff already, Vicky, as we start up here.
Jitward is coming out of the Spider-Man. Wait, they're going for a play already. But Jitward on the Spider-Man, I don't know how long this one's going to last here, Shib. I won't sit on the edge of my seat just yet, but I know the audience wanted to see maybe the Spider-Man Ditto coming out, because this is a team that could absolutely run it. The Turtle comes out to play, and Jitward's already getting into position, trying to note where everybody is situated here on the catwalk.
Let the games begin. Monster finds one, and Mace immediately dinks again. Are you kidding me? 3 go down here for Yeah We Lost his Nightmare with a great start. Zatex gonna self-res right back up, try to keep the team healthy for the moment, but they already have the space removed from them, excuse me, and the point has been capped here. Nightmare starting off with 5%.
It's even crazier to see how ready Nightmare was, and this is the beauty of the tank pool. It's going to be matched from both sides. Banhammer, who are they going to ban out, though? That's the question. They put down the bubble before. Skier's forced to back away now. Jitward's falling incredibly low, and this is why you have to think about what you're doing when you're running out with the Spider-Man, even if you could get these environmental KOs off to the right side of this point, because they're ready for it. Yes, you have vision on the Phoenix, dealing so much of that damage.
Yeah, the idea now is just to stall for as long as humanly possible, and I can't believe it, but still on the point. Monster holding for a while, 32%. Not as much percentage as you may be looking for on that early take, but still going to put them up a little bit in an advantage here. You can see the change already as we see Hulk coming into play there for Yeah We Lost, taking over control of the point. Speaking of who to hit with the banhammer, you typically, when you're on Vanguard pool, want to find a strategist that has to land shots. Something like you can see Xantho there on Invis, because if they miss just one of those heals, they'll take that extra damage, and that's why they typically upgrade that banhammer first, so they just take more and more damage, making it even more difficult to escape as Xantho finds vision.
And that's why it's so scary, too, as these games progress, the level ups on these dead pools. But Xantho getting his answer back. NTMR has answers, though. Aya Bakamoto as Deke protects his team with the It's Jeff. Here comes Jitward, though. Give me back my team.
Wow.
As Deke gets taken out and scared. That is both of the strats, and now it's going to have to be a reset for NTMR.
Yeah, and the Hulk smash comes in, finds some value in the cleanup.
Oh my!
That is a huge later pick there. Stagger for days as vision goes down. Ton of ults available here for NTMR in the next fight, though. This is their fight to win. If they somehow aren't able to recap here, I will say this first map would look bleak for them. Monster going to start up here with a freedom charge. That is going to give some ult charge to the rest of the team. Light going to engage here with the Let the Devil out, but do we see value as the bond gets committed? The whale lands, and 3 falls immediately as we see now NTMR have priority and head towards point.
Light getting a little stunned, though, and Vision, after making that swap over to the Namor, after seeing Jitward roll out there on the Spider-Man and sticking to it, by the way. He does have that ultimate online. NTMR are looking to retake this point because, yeah, we lost already nearing 80%.
And we do see Zatex now has that res available. Jitward gets caught before using that ultimate. That is a ton of value there from Light. And an early pick in that neutral. Neutral ever more valuable as we see in these battles. But again, Zatex with that ult available. The idea now is the team takes over point and they have a full committed fight where they're not afraid to get KO'd and just ensure they just stall that point for as long as possible before you have to commit that ultimate. Wow, Jitward falling again. No, again, huge for the side of NTMR.
And good luck trying to match that with Vision just bunkered down with all his squids to back him up like a bouncer, but they have to call out where that passive is. Yes, Light takes care of the Adam Warlock, but that Karmic Revival is online. And Vision with the back-to-back, the Born Again rings out, and they call him out immediately, but it's okay. He lets loose of the button, he brings back 3 still, but will it be enough sustain? As Jitward comes in, he tries to stun them from the back line, he still finds Zinks in the long run, and that's also a big pick considering that the It's Jeff was online, and now Yeah We Lost have the number advantage before moving on to the point.
But remember, folks, NTMR does not have portal back, so it's all going to be about the touch here, as the point will likely shift in a moment to Yeah We Lost as the stagger comes through from Light, but he's just stalling point at this point. Not a bad idea. But now, yes, Yeah We Lost controlling point. It's going to be a necessary touch coming in here, likely from Monster on that cap to ensure the team can get in and have to force out cooldowns. And that's the downside to not having Strange. Getting there to this point will force you to burn a lot of your survivability that you need, as we see, wow, Jitward just escaped barely in that moment. There's the touch. The team fight begins. Out goes the banhammer. Does that find value? Not quite yet. Monster holding on. The whale lands, but no one goes down as Monster gets the first pick now onto Zatex, and still maintaining presence. Out goes the boundary. The point is an absolute heater right now, and it's back and forth on the KO feed.
But keeping our eye on Skier right now, you need that invisible boundary as Deke sends out the other Invisible Woman right after she puts down her own invisible boundary for Yeah We Lost. Heart falling incredibly low. He did get that reset earlier on. They flipped the point right back in NTMR's favor, but something else is, Yeah We Lost do have the opportunity to portal back to recontest.
Yeah, and they're going to need to do it shortly here. You have to touch the 3% on. I'm not sure the touch came through. It did not, and NTMR was able to stop it, saying, hey, we didn't need Strange in that moment, and that is going to be one map for NTMR.
Great way for NTMR to brute force their way, though, to recontest onto that point. It was very big having that Captain America there, even being able to help look back at Jitward, who was going to try to disrupt that back line. Not too sure. Do they want to stick to the Spider-Man is the question, because I feel like NTMR, especially Vision, the way that he's been backing up both Dinks and Skier, is making it really difficult, including Light, right, who's been trying to hone in on him.
Yeah, I'm with you. It kind of depends here. That was a very strong Spider-Man map, specifically here as we're looking at Hell's Heaven. We're going to see what it looks like now as we head into the next location. I think they look strong as a team. Yeah, we lost in that moment. I can't say I fully agree with the band, the Strange band. It looks like right now, since NTMR has such a mobile team and they're so dive heavy, they don't really have too much problem with the touch idea. I think they wanted to try to make a portal play early. That didn't work out, and we're already seeing a change, at least so far from Kendrick, likely just to bubble the team out with speed. The Gambit change comes in. A lot of shifting in composition. Either is a team that is learning from the opposition or a team that's panicking. We're going to find out what that is in a moment.
Makes you wonder what those scrim books were going down and looking like, right? These teams already having that practice, knowing what to expect. Monster, though, has been literally a monster right now on the cap, trying to contest there with the Hook for backing away to reposition.
Yeah, we'll see here now. Monster just getting to point early. He's not going to be allowed to touch and make anything happen for 6 more seconds, but instead is going to launch the Freedom Charge. Get that alt charge gaining for the team. Monster playing hyper aggro now while you have that safety. Maze putting some pressure on the front line. Light, though, finds the first pick onto Kendrick, and that is huge as Dinks takes out another. Numbers are dwindling here, and once more, Nightmare coming out on top early on in this fight.
And yeah, we lost actually trying to match up, right? With Kendrick now beyond the Jeff. Mass is going to go down. That was a Thor on your screen. We had Thor and Hulk rolled out from Yeah, we lost, and they get shut down with Nightmare not really using everything in their arsenal, right? They're going to have so much ready for this next fight with a huge stagger that we just mentioned is so detrimental in Dom.
Yeah, that's the idea. And Dom, we kind of touched on it, but you just want to stall point. Nothing else matters. That's why some of these picks, like Captain America, who can just stand there forever, are huge. And that's going to be a start as Monster finds Xantho. Down goes another Vision onto Jitward. Monster again just showing a masterclass on this cap here and keeping the pressure on and owning this space in the front side, keeping them in this tight corridor.
You were able to see Caster Cavs right there. My jaw dropped. I was like, okay, they are just fully sweeping. It's cleanup on aisle 3 for this team, quite literally, as they're funneled up inside this little room, looking to see if they can split this attention, because this also so hard to break this choke, spread out when you're running a Vanguard lineup like this.
Yeah, and we are going to see more commitment now. Out goes a ton of cooldown. The Invisible Boundary committed. The God of Thunder lands, and it's Jeff, but does that seem to work out as Vision finds one on the Zatex? The trade comes through. Monster going to save the team there on Kendrick as Cart finds one on the Mace. Back and forth we go as Mask now takes out Vision and Cart again on the light.
But with the map shifting over to the side, it actually benefited Mask instead. The Thor going crazy. He's awakened. And now he's also moving up to create some real estate for the rest of his team. Yeah, we lost finally took the point for the first time in this round.
Yeah, but that is huge value. Getting to that 70% number essentially turns this into a one-fight win for the side of Nightmare. Granted, they do not have the portal that Yeah, we lost will have. So the idea now is to just build ults as a team, potentially even lose a few fights, and then everyone presses Q at once to ensure you win the one last fight you need. As we see another pick coming in early on the side of Monster.
Don't worry, get down. I'll protect you, Dink says after they see the dance of a butterfly, but it's going to be Vanpool versus Vanpool, activating everything with a number advantage, going in favor for Yeah, we lost right now. Cart is going to be able to get right back into the whole form after coming out of the spawn room gates. Xanthos finds Vision next. Monster's going to meet him back in the spawn room gates, but it's a great fight win here for Yeah, we lost because Nightmare were not able to flip the point despite them trying to trickle in.
Yeah, but now the side of Nightmare, like we were saying, just build those ults. Monster has something available. Vision as well. You're looking potentially to have some sort of answer ultimate, whether that's from Skier or Dinks. Likely Skier coming up here in this next fight. And then you just press Q before Yeah, we lost can get there. Because the only answer they'll have shortly is going to be the God of Thunder, which does not do too much into a very coordinated team. He has a great neutral, but not the best ultimate. And let the games begin as the next fight commences. We see more chase here from Monster. Almost getting that pick, but barely escaping is Jitward, but not for long as Dink says, not in my house, and they start walking forward together.
Yeah, cue the John Williams music real quick. Everybody has to look at this shark, maybe look and turn it into some sushi. If Zatex can even find his footing. He fell incredibly low, does get re-sustained here, but that forces Cart to get back into the Bruce Banner form. Mask does have a reset here before Vision could call in the Hornet Proteus, but Light could also try to harass him from the back, make a sandwich out of Yeah, we lost his Nightmare right now, are looking to retake.
Wow, and they're coming back with a vengeance, though. Yeah, we lost. Finds two. Vision, though, with a two-piece. Out goes the whale. Does that land? No. Jitward could use the iframe from taking a picture to not even think about it in a moment. That was big brain there from Jitward to avoid the whale. Going to use the melee ultimate to stay healthy.
No way.
For days, and I like that idea as he finds the pick on Light here. Clean play here from Jitward.
Oh, he's just trying. Somebody save him, ayúdame. He's not going to be able to catch that shark over to the side. He's going back to the safety of his team, but they try to stall for as long as possible. Here comes the Invisible Boundary from Skier. He gets hit with an anti. He manages to stay up for right now before diving down. Here comes the Venom, just so that way they can try to stay on this point. Another very close round between both of these teams.
And it is back and forth again. Vision finding one, Mace another. Zatex finds Skier in the backline, and that's a strategist. Huge pick as Cart now takes out Vision. Back and forth we go, folks, but Nightmare looking like they will take this point, 95% in climbing. Are we going to have ourselves a 99 as Gambit says he ain't folding and everybody charges onto the point? But where does this end up? Monster duking it out in the front line with another dive front line of Venom, but still they're both just way too beefy to make anything happen just yet. The commitment comes through. The Feast of the Abyss available. Does commit. Does it get value? Not quite yet, except Ace does fall.
But with the anti-heal, they wanted to try to set up for the Dance of Butterflies. They still come out on top, and these portals have been used up too. Overtime ticking away. Vision falls incredibly low. No sustain with no strat available, and Zaytech takes out Vision. Nightmare trying to come back. They're forcing it together because Monster has been a stalled demon this entire first map.
This is an absolute banger for game one. Are you kidding me? Zaytech, though, gonna find a Quadra. Are you joking right now? Trying to show up here for Yeah We Lost. There is no way back, and that is gonna be a 1-to-1 situation.
Oh ho ho, the no strange at the very end? Yeah, we lost. Look, that Nightmare say, you sure you don't need that real quick? You may have recontested in that first round, but in that second round, those ulti sinks actually ended up costing them, unfortunately, not allowing them to recontest.
I love it. You sure about that? I do love it. You're right. Good call out there. As that removal of strength clearly worked out, and the come in touch from their side of Yeah We Lost was absolutely valuable. So we will see what happens now, folks. I do like the composition here for Yeah We Lost. It clearly has been a change that's working for them. Pulling out that Thor to just battle in the neutral and finding a ton of backline value onto the strategist of Skier and Dinks. You have Zaytex on that Psylocke who applies so much pressure, and when you don't have Loki crystals to answer that ultimate, you are forced to burn an ultimate to try to answer, and that is a tough position to be in. I gotta say, maybe Loki wouldn't be a horrendous idea, but we'll see what they like to do in this match.
I like that idea, actually, Shiv. That's a very good point, because, you know, you do have Vision that's kind of bunkered down, doing a lot, too, of damage, but how much can you really get done if you can kind of spread out a little bit and really rely on those lamps? And this is a great round to do so, especially with the verticality that this round provides.
Yeah, the value right now, the tricky part is Jeff is just so good in neutral. The speed boost is so valuable for a divey composition like this. I understand the lack in choice there of the Loki. As we see here, Jitward finding one of the few duelist pools that actually makes a presence in the scene. We're showing a ton of just dirty plays there in the MRC, and it's continuing here in Ignite. Cart able to find another, and Zaytax once more. Looks like the point will go to Yeah We Lost early on.
Honestly, watching Jitward play, it doesn't matter if it's on the Spider-Man, the duelist pool, it's just always so enjoyable. He pops the ult, isolates the backline there too, forcing Nightmare to give up on that point first, allowing Yeah We Lost to have advantage, whereas in that last round that they just won, they didn't really start in that strong foot, right? Nightmare had pushed right in front of their face, almost closer to their spawn, as a reset comes in, God of Thunder slamming down with Mjolnir, and now you have Dinks that could use the Itch Jab to go in for a reset, but also the piercing damage of these jabs have just been so impactful.
Yeah, and that's the idea here. Jeff just excels in these single lane format maps. His Vision's able to find Kendrick there, and they are walking them back down the change in composition now from Nightmare as we see the Phoenix come in. Phoenix does a great job of peeling backline as well. That stun and just the application of damage in an AoE. Oh my goodness, is that a Pensa now? Vision, chill on him. Are you joking? Nightmare gonna retake point with 40 up from Yeah We Lost. Not a bad retake in terms of percentage.
Reminding everybody what we're watching, right? Literally putting the Ignite to the Marvel Rivals Ignite in this banger of a first game to open up the day. And Nightmare have a lot of answers right now. Literally 5 of these ultimates online. Monster's very close to having that freedom charge as well. But they're gonna have to see how they're gonna cycle through this with this Raging Royal Flush.
But this is the Gambit advantage. They're coming back in hot. They don't need a ton of answer ultimates as 3 get committed just to try to shut down the Gambit. But there's no value yet. In terms of the KO feed, it's Jeff lands. It could be massive. Can they get off map right now? Saving the allies. Jitward able to find Steer. Dinks takes out Zaytex. Is there more as Mace finds Kendrick? Still a back and forth situation. Point in control in terms of Nightmare. Jitward doing Jitward stuff here on this duelist pool. Do we see more play? And oh my goodness, the movement is insane. What am I looking at?
Oh, you know, he knows how to play. He knows what he's doing, man. Jitward was moving and breaking the ankles and breaking their neck to look up. Only so much Cap can do. He stalls for as long as possible, but Yeah We Lost retake the point.
Now seems like as good a time as any to mention this is not the most updated patch, where Duelist Pool does have that little hit to his animation cancel on that dive, so we will see a little bit of a takedown in that play style coming up next week. But for now, might as well get your advantage, as you see a ton of clean play there. And at the spawn door they go, but Vision's still able to find Zaytex in the mix.
And it's Dance of the Butterflies, more like a Dance Back into the Spawn, because that was over in their face of the spawn room gates. But unfortunately, Vision being on the Phoenix has had a lot of impact in marking down those members of Yeah, We Lost. Mass does have a reset just in case. He activates it immediately after losing out on the Gambit. Unfortunate, but there's not going to be any sustain as they're forced to reset, and Nightmare take the point.
Yeah, and this is gonna settle a debate that maybe hasn't even been out there yet. Is Vanpool as good as current state duelist pool at this level prior to the changes? And you can see their Mace obviously rocking the Vanguard pool. We talked about how strong that ultimate is, but for some reason, Jitward on this hero is just playing lights out. It's definitely a tough character to keep eyes on with all that movement. 82% here for Yeah, We Lost, 74 and climbing for Nightmare.
Yeah, you know, aside from that Dance of the Butterfly too that we just recently saw, Zatex has also been really on top of it, trying to follow up with Jitward. Cart does have Piece of the Abyss though. The anti comes out, but the protect from Dinks to save the day. Monster tries to punish Santho, but it's gonna have to be a trade-off, losing out on life.
Mask is able to find Dinks there. Monster onto Jitward, Cart onto Skier. It's just back and forth in the feed now as Cart takes out another, looking great on this hero. And Mask once more. The Vanguard showing up right now in crucial fashion. 99% though for Nightmare, 82. Nightmare's gonna have to get back. Remember, they do not have portals, it's all about the touch. And once again, folks, we will have a 99-99 to decide who takes home this game.
So close every single round, going down to the wire thus far. It has only been 2. They have to rely on this invincible boundary there. I'm looking at Skier. Mace is trying to close in the gap, puts down the bubble, and with a freedom charge, leads Nightmare forward. But take a look at Jitward, who is having a monumental moment, and Light has been constantly shut down. This sword pick from Yeah, We Lost has helped out at least the backline for now, but they've lost it on the Jazz.
Yeah, Mace finding one there onto Kendrick. Again, targeting one of the strategists that has to land shots because it does force too much damage out. Vision with a huge pick onto Xantho, and that's on a massive value Gambit pick. As Nightmare still wants this point. Monster able to find Mask. The teleport needs to come in here from Kendrick, which is already being set up. The chase down onto Jitward could be a huge dagger, and it is from Vision. Will he be able to escape this tight position? Yes, Light now onto Card. The numbers are dwindling here for Yeah, We Lost. Nightmare retakes point. OT ticks down. Can they shut this down as the Dance of the Butterfly gets committed? Oh my goodness! A two-piece from Zatex and more coming. Is that going to be enough here?
You 5-3, but it's not enough because the devil was let out. Even if Light was getting shut down, having that ultimate for that final fight made all the difference when they lost out on half their membership. Nightmare take map number 1 to open up the day.
Holy moly, I'll say it right now, that might have been the closest first game we've had our eyes on in Ignite as a whole. That was an absolute battle back and forth as we're going to be looking at our MVP screen here. Dinks coming out on top of the 11 final, showing up on that Jeff, saying why Jeff is so strong in this current meta.
Yeah, too, and you know, when you take a look at Hell's Heaven, there's a lot of open sight lines where that piercing could come in clutch. Everyone stacks up together, it goes through your teammates, it goes into the enemy, you add on that extra tick of damage, and you kind of let your Daredevil Vision 2 was popping off with that burst damage to just fly.
Yeah, oh man. I mean, that was just a blast to watch. Vision coming out with 22 finals as well, 30k damage. Really showing up there for a while on the Namor, but then making the switch over to Phoenix. And again, I think Namor is storied for being great at protecting your backline against dive, but Phoenix does a great job as well. Has an iframe dodge, has movement, and has a stun, and just outputs a ton of damage if you can land your shots. Vision looking crucial in those moments. Everybody finding a ton of final hits across the board here.
Can you imagine looking back at the setups that we saw from both teams, though, from the very beginning and saying, yep, welcome to day 2 of Ignite after we saw from day 1. We had a Hulk, we have, a Psylocke, we had the Duelist pool. This is crazy. Like, it's just been a huge mix-up from the different metas of these teams trying to figure it out here, Chib.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun, folks. And keep it locked right here. We're going to have plenty more of these kind of matchups coming up right after this break.
Welcome back, one and all. Zoe here, joined by Shib and Vicky, and we're about to dive into our second map of our first series of the day. And man, this one delivered. This is exactly what we wanted to see. Wild comms, lots of questions. Like, if you watch just this match, don't take any notes, because this is just going to work for those particular players. Like, you can't really replicate this in your ranked games, I don't think. Thor in the mix, Hulk in the mix, Spider-Man was in there, although we have to say, like, he had a hard time. Like, that didn't really work. But then afterwards, we see him on the duelist pool, so, like, that was super interesting. How do you even break this down? Like, what did we take away? What did we learn?
Hit us, Vicky. What do you got?
All right, like the fact that we saw Thor too. Honestly, I think the fact that Nightmare, to add to this, won without having to use a portal, that's very difficult. And in this level of Marvel Rivals play, guys, like, these portal plays come in clutch, and that's why the Doctor Strange ban is a bold ban, because you want to prio maybe other bans here too, but obviously these teams have the notes on each other, which is why we saw the Protect on the Doctor Strange from the other side of Jitward's team here from Yeah We Lost. But then we take a look at the fact that, like, Mask came out, we saw him go onto the Thor originally before they made the swap with Kendrick going onto the Doctor Strange. I think though, Zoe, the number one thing I noted was that Nightmare was so ready to try to combat that of the different changes that we saw from Yeah We Lost. We saw that Vision was ready, whether it be on the Namor, he went back over to the Phoenix. It was very explosive damage. Dinks, too, popping off on the Jeff was a big highlight. There's a reason why he got MVP, right? He had like 34k healing, slightly more than Skier, who was on the Invisible Woman. But on top of that, he had 11 final hits being on a strat.
Yeah, Jeff obviously such an integral part, right, Shib, in the current meta. And we saw Jeff on both sides here. Great hero for the neutral, which is so important in this meta.
Yeah, I think the idea with Jeff when you're playing Jeff is you don't really want to play him like you would with Luna. I think a lot of folks see Jeff as a strategist that struggles, but at the end of the day, you want to flank with Jeff and you want to spray through the backline of the enemy into your team. You get out super quick and you try to make plays. In 11 finals there was dirty from Dinks. I mean, and we can list a ton of different plays. I think the crazy and fun thing about these teams is they play very much a dive style of play. Comms are super important. Setting up is super important. And for strategists, you just are terrified at all times because everybody is looking for you. And then on top of all that, you have Mace applying the ban hammer on the back line of Yeah We Lost. Yeah We Lost taking Strange Portal away from them. There was just so much happening that was unique for this matchup. I think teams on the fly had to figure it out and try to find a way through it. And shout out to Nightmare doing just that.
Yeah, if we're looking ahead on our next map, what do you want to see here in the ban phase? Because obviously, Yeah We Lost, they technically would have had the Gambit advantage in the first one. And it did show in, I believe, round 1 or 2, like, how much of an impact that can have, even though they didn't get the dub in the end. But what do you expect to see from either of the teams?
I feel like the Gambit, Kendrick was so focused on, right? Like, Kendrick just didn't really have any room to breathe, and that's why you could see the difference in, like, the strat healing that he was able to put down. I think it was, like, less than 24k or so, and he was so focused, like, he went down, like, 12 times in comparison to, like, what Deeks had gone down 9. Skier did go down 11 times. Invisible Woman issues when it comes to dealing with also, like, Venom, and then Jitward's also in your backline, jumping on your forehead with Duelist Pool, but also with the Spider-Man. I think trying to focus, if you want to run the Gambit strat, you have to make sure that Kendrick has also some healing, because there's only so much before you're forced to use those ability cooldowns.
Yeah, and I also love how they start with Strat Pool to try to get some of those upgrades, so when they go to Duelist Pool, they have less of a tough time. I think it's a really unique and cool idea to just kind of farm experience, essentially, for his RPG-like elements. Switch over to that Duelist Pool once you're already beefy, and then just run lobbies. And Jitward does that so well. I mean, better than anyone we've seen in this tournament or in this series as a whole. So shout out there. Very cerebral, very different, very cool. And I'm looking forward to more of it as we head to Museum of Contemplation. I mean, last time we saw this map was last night at the very last series, Vicky, and that was nutty. Do you think it'll happen again?
Yes, I guess you think is what we mentioned too, Shib. I mean, even in my own personal experience, it's a really hard map when you're starting on the attack to even get that payload to the finish line. But we saw it happen like twice from both sides, right? And it was so close, down to the wire, all the way into overtime, where the only advantage that one side had was an additional 14 seconds. But it seemed those 14 seconds was more than enough to recontest and actually end up winning that map just yesterday too. So I think when it comes down to starting things off, depending on what side these teams are starting on, expecting, okay, well, I don't think we're going to see the Spider-Man anymore. And if we do, we may see that triple Vanguard lineup like we have seen in the past.
Yeah, it's a shame. I was very excited about the Jitward Spider-Man. Unfortunately, they work out for them. But I do have to compliment both of these teams on the quick adaptations in game. I feel like there were a lot of moving pieces, and the teams played extremely reactionary. Both really coming into this, having done their homework with a very clear game plan, and also with a very clear idea on what to expect from the other side there. So I very much hope we get another close map here in our map 2. First one was about as close as it gets, really.
Yeah, I think they just want the title of which team can dive better, right? As we can see right now, the standing NTMR up 1 against Yeah We Lost, heading in to our next map. Museum of Contemplation dive very much available. Let's see how it looks.
Let's see how we're going to be contemplating these pick and ban phases too, right? I know it's also very very good representation. I'm wearing my It's Jeff shirt out here, and I got this at a Tokyo pop-up shop. I had some messages asking me about it, and it was on brand what we saw for that first map. Not too sure if we're going to keep seeing the Jeff, although we could keep seeing the different strategist lineup depending on how these pick and bans go. No Daredevil, no Gambit. Now from the side of Yeah We Lost to make sure that NTMR cannot run that together.
Yeah, there is some off-map potential on point 1 and 2, and even 3 had some weird spots, so we could see the Jeff, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure what it's going to look like. I don't think we're going to see the Strange ban out again. I think that was more so for domination, but you know what? With these two teams, who knows? As we see the lock-in here of Elsa and the removal of Gambit, no surprise there.
Obviously, since we're going on to that convoy, it's important to note that if we do end up going to a game number 3, that means we will, no matter what, see convergence as we go through our different game modes here. The Elsa Ditto is out, though, Shib, and it was interesting to see the double Elsa ban because we've been seeing at least one team kind of get away with it. That's why you mentioned how it's very rare to see that go down all the way to the very end, but we get to see the Elsas protected here, and now we're going to linger with no Mantis. You don't want to have that damage boost on top of the Elsa.
Yeah, and if Damage Boost gets through, it just enables a bunch of different compositions. Folks at this level, for those who maybe don't know as you're climbing ladder, really take advantage of that Damage Boost from Mantis. Not only does it enable new breakpoints for combinations to take out the backline or whoever you're fighting, but it also helps you get ult even quicker, and that's the idea and the advantage of Mantis, who also is very aggro in that neutral. It can find value in just on her own damage, as we see now the removal of Daredevil and the lock-in of Vanguard pool. Pretty deep up there for the side of NTMR, but Mace found a ton of success with it last time.
Oh, and Yeah We Lost noted. All right, no Jeffy. They don't want to deal with that. There's a lot of verticality, a lot of different spots that you could hold if you do end up rolling out on the Jeff. Well, they saved the Jeff for themselves. Tankful saved up, though, for a NTMR, so that's another little peek to see if we're going to have that triple Vanguard lineup rolled up, because NTMR is starting on the defense. That is what I'm honestly expecting to see what this final ban's going to be.
The removal of Strat Pool is very targeted, and that's just going to ensure that, again, Duelist Pool doesn't have that advantage once they start with Strat. That's a really smart and just different way to attack that kind of hero, ensuring they don't have the time really to build up that experience and make the switch whenever they want to, forcing them to run it even when he's kind of in a downside early on, not having all those abilities prepared. Very, very cool look here as we start up our Museum of Contemplation. You can see what they're floating right now, but they don't always land on these picks.
I don't know, Mace was saying that, you know, the pick and ban phase is going to look a little weird, but this actually, I like this look right now because, yeah, we lost. They noted how important, like, that Jeff was, too, for themselves, especially on a map like this, and they are able to protect it, and NTMR being able to answer back onto making sure that they do not have that strat pool, considering you do usually see that triple strat lineup.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is far more traditional. I think we're going to see a lot of Jeff bans in this season of Ignite. I mean, definitely going to see Mantis, just for folks who maybe didn't know, in past Ignite, in terms of most bans, Mantis was up there, the top 2, Human Torch above that when he was just running the meta for a while. You know, we saw a little bit of Torch in EU today, and he actually kind of ran the lobby, ended up winning there in EU on Central Park, so maybe that will come back into fold, especially when Ultron is in the mix. But we'll see if that ever comes into fruition today as the games develop. But I'll tell you what, it's not happening right now as Cart already takes off on Hulk. Is that going to be an immediate switch?
Oh, he rolled eyes and said, "Psych." Yeah, definitely not. He saw, honestly, he saw the Elsa, was like, okay, I'm not Elsa, sorry, the Emma. And it's like, I'm not going to get chokeslammed by Mace here. Notices, though, that they're running the Loki and immediately dives onto them as Zaytex finds Mace first.
Yeah, good start there for Zaytex, finding some value early on. Had a huge ultimate at the end with the Dance of the Butterfly, almost clutch as Kendrick, Mask, and Kendrick again are going to find a two-piece, and Kendrick already catching up to those finals from last match, saying, I can play Jeff too, trust me. Jitward able to find Monster there too.
I'm going to be wearing my Jeff shirt a lot more often. I think what we're seeing here going into the second map. Sticking to the tradition, Jitward says no strap pull necessary. I got the duelist pull instead. Trying to make it work here as Cart is getting set up into position, expecting Nightmare to go through this choke to the left.
All right, you can see here, Emma getting some play already. Early tackle there, going to allow the diamond form to be matched right back, this time from Rogue. And the point's already just an absolute mayhem right now as back and forth they go. Hiding in this back corner, allowing the strategist to buy more time. The retake comes through. Monster going to apply more pressure this time. Monster actually going to be on that Van Pool. The flexibility of this team already being shown here. Zatex in sight. And there goes that Van Hammer. But everyone gets the lead in this. Jitward finds the two-piece and already takes a selfie.
That was big too, because even if the Itch Jeff may have found one, it was the one on the Invisible Woman. And look how close Skier was to that invisible boundary. Imagine if Skier was able to get that invisible boundary for the very end right there. Good pinpoint target from Kendrick from Yeah We Lost.
The idea now is they're going to portal very close. Since they lost that point early, they're going to portal very close here to ensure that they can bide more time and act like they stalled point one. It's what you want to see as you're climbing ladder, folks, and this is why Strange is so impactful and why you don't typically always want Strange being played, because whoever goes down early makes that switch, portals right onto the point, and you act like they didn't even take point one. Out goes the match here from Skier. The match right back again with the invisible boundary, the Venn diagram, as both teams are just duking it out but staying healthy at the same time. Down goes 1, 2, 3. As you see, Yeah We Lost sweep the entirety of Nightmare.
Imagine if Light had the Born again. He does have the passive. Couldn't he get away with it or hold on to it because Dinks was already at 1 before coming back to spawn? Yeah, you're going to reset instead. Dinks was the first to go out, though, in that fight, Shib, and he could have had the God of Mayhem there coming out rather to really get that copy. Just being able to really come back and contest. And Monster swapping over to the Hulk, as Yeah We Lost really have not stopped on this payload.
Yeah, the switches are coming through. Light going to be on that Wolverine. Vision able to find Xantho there and set the tone a little bit. Finding a backline like that this early should give them the space they need to retake. The idea now is to protect your backline from the dive that is Card on that Venom, which can be a huge problem on those heroes. As we see Mace, now he's making the switch over to the Van Pool, and Monster is also changing, like we talked about that Hulk. A huge ultimate here with the Glartrox from Vision onto Mask, finding one, and once more up in numbers is Nightmare.
We're moving over to the left side, though. Zinx, once again, trying to get that copy before trying to recontest here, too, with Yeah We Lost having that advantage. And that's 2 out. Jitward sent back to the spawn room gates means that this is going to be a full reset for Yeah We Lost. But keep your eyes, though, on Kendrick. He does have the It's Jeff. May want to try to help out Jitward, too, looking on the other side of Nightmare after finding Dinks if he pops that ultimate to try to stop him from getting any value.
And again goes the commitment, protecting that backline. Everybody going to be looking at Cart, but still staying healthy, and that's just what Venom does. Zatex trying to take an off angle very low, but is able to make his way through it with some of that overhealth. Vision going to find one there, but the Glartrox gets Vision. Vision able to escape right back, and that's a huge counter right there from Skier with that invisible boundary. Great play there as Xantho now finds one. Do we see more? These teams, again, just so much back and forth, so much talent, and so much chaos in this comp as Hulk is just destroying Rogue.
Ayúdame! Mask needs help. Even got the stun. Says, no, don't worry. Get down, Mr. President. Kendrick saves the day. And off to the spawn room gates he goes here. Oh, unfortunate. And that's going to be a big stagger, too, if you really think about it, because Nightmare are going to be down Monster entirely.
Yeah, and then you got to lose your entire Hulk form, then you transform to Bruce, and then you lose your HP again. It just buys more time just naturally because it was Hulk. As we see Light able to find one there, protecting that backline against Zatex. Once more, Nightmare regains positioning on this point. Looking over to Jitward, who's just up in the sky all over the place. So difficult to keep eyes on this duelist pool. And as I say that, Light says not for long. Goodbye to Jitward.
Jitward plays Deadpool like so comically accurate too, right? It's like catch me if you can, and there's like comes Light as we see the fastball special coming in. This is another composition that I was wondering, Shib, if we were going to be able to see a lot more often from our preseason Ignite teams, and now this is going to be one of the few with Nightmare just trying to see if they could find a kidnap here.
Oh, and out goes the Glartrox from Vision. Going to walk away as far as possible. I believe it's still in chase. At least, no, it does find the value. Instead, not even going to look at it anymore. Vision finds Jitward. One trades right back, and that's going to be on Skier, though, which is big value as Skier was close to that invisible boundary. Target prio on targets in the backline that almost have their ultimates are even more valuable, and that's why ult tracking is so important at this level. We see the fastball once more, which is just going to be a free dash. Goodbye to Cart.
Everybody focused him. The backwards heel right there was so on point. The target focus, they knew that, yeah, we lost. We're a bit staggered. They have some extra time because here in the second checkpoint in the Museum of Contemplation, look how many open sightlines there are over to the side. As once again, Vanguard after Vanguard, they keep trying to contest in the same room.
Vision, again, gonna find Zaytex early on. Nightmare getting these early neutral picks consistently is gonna put them up, but right back, Jitward's able to find, once again, Skier and Dinks, and both strategists going down there. It's just a testament to how good Jitward can be on this hero. Cart able to find Light, and now, yeah, we lost is heavily up in numbers. 2 here for this fight with heavy pressure advantage. Alt advantage, though, gonna be staying in their favor as we see Skier does have that invisible boundary launch.
Invisible boundary from Skier, though, just so that way they can try to recontest the H-Jeff. Did he get the Invisible Woman is the question here as Mask pops the Heartbreaker. Zaytex having to send the Glartrox over to the other side. Everybody was funneled in that right room to brute force their way to recontest. Here comes the dive, though, and it's going to be Light to turn things around. Finds 2, but there's not enough bodies from Nightmare's side to stay alive as Jitward continues to jump on their foreheads to get a nice 2K.
That is crazy. Light with a huge ult there. Honestly, thought it was going to buy them enough time to retake, but no. Jitward finding 2, and the rest of the team getting even more value, allowing them to press through point 2, but not a lot of time on the clock here, folks. And if you've played on this map before, on Contemplation, you know this final point, you've got to have a body on top of the point at all times. And I don't mean a zone outside of the float. I mean on top of the float, making it even more difficult to push.
It's like a water park sometimes when you find yourself in a different position, though. The invisible boundary from Santos. You currently see Light trying to get into position after making a quick little swap up onto that Namor. Finding some problems here. Monster's going to be able to survive. Get into that Monster Hulk form. Gets a reset. Vision then finds the Rogue. And that's double Vanguards out from Yaoi. We lost as Nightmare retake this point on the defense.
Yeah, this is what they're looking for here. They're going to hold them tight towards the spawn door for as long as possible to ensure their next fight is the last fight if they do get taken off this point. But from a bunch of different angles at the same time, here goes Jitward, who is very low. Good shots there from Mace, able to find the early pick and immediately use the banhammer. But this time onto Elsa. Elsa with a ton of overhealth might be able to live, but for how long? Oh, not able to make it happen on the Zaytex. Good work with the back line there. Yeah, we lost to keep Zaytex up even through that ultimate.
Kendrick said, I'll be part of the water park too here. He's getting that piercing healing and damage from the backline uncontested as Light tries to get set up with these Namor squids. Needs some help before backing away. Looking back to at Skier, who's close to that invisible boundary. Take a look because that's what, yeah, we lost one of prioritize with Kendrick having the It's Jeff waiting for it.
Card has not moved at all. Both teams just duking it out over here right near the spawn door. Out goes the boundary. Vision able to find the first pick onto Cart. 1 number up here for Nightmare, who is still trying to make sure they don't get 3 ticks on this map. Out goes the Glartrox, and it is huge here as Mace goes down. That is a huge pick. Zaytex going to find Monster. Both of the Vanguards fall out, and that should give, yeah, we lost some time to press, but another Glartrox this time. Does it get value? It does. Dinks able to clean up Zaytex. Light finds Xantho. Jitward onto Light, and are you joking? Red and blue back and forth.
With Vision now coming back around and Deep's getting stunned here, having to back away. It was from Cart's hands, who also has a reset. Overtime ticking away, but yeah, we lost. Have planted their feet here back on this point.
And the OT, as you can look, folks, is very low. If they just leave that point for a moment, they will be in trouble. Cart playing on top of point right now with both form is able to find one on his Skier. That is big value, 100 HP in a dream. Can he stay healthy? Not for long. Down to Banner he goes. See more commitment now from Jitward. Look at this movement. It is insane. A 2-piece. Jitward looking for 3 now, heading towards the Vanguards as the backline has fallen. And we see fantastic from Light, but I don't think that will last long. Mace able to find 1, but again, the whole team of Yeah We Lost is keeping this cart moving.
The ult call out though onto Dinks when he tries to use a God of Mischief to get the copy and then get stunned in the process was so difficult. Nice sniper stun, by the way, over to the back before you see Kendrick try to rejoin with the rest of his team, but they cannot get off this point with a crumb left of overtime. Cart tries to cut off their only exit point.
Good idea there. They're now engaging from 2 different positions. When you have Jitward behind, you can see in the flank. Oh, Mace tries to land a huge arm.
Wow.
It does not seem to land as the invisible woman shield keeping her healthy. Card able to find Mace to trade that right back. And once again, yeah, we lost is showing up in the clutch in this moment. They do not want to lose this early into Nightmare. They want to make this a 1-1 series, but can they get it to point 3? Skier with some insane positioning here in terms of just safety. And now we're going to press in with that duelist line to try to get some value on the strategist. Not able to do just that, except for Light finds the pick now onto Mask.
Light says you could ban out the Daredevil, but I'm back here on the Star-Lord, back at home too, while he rolls out. He's got the Galactic Legend as the Glartrox comes out and stops Jitward. Jitward tried to make something happen by harassing the backline. Santos going to be the next to go out, and yeah, we lost. They try to get it all the way to the end, but with no bodies to touch, they only get it right before that.
That is such a tough point to push through as the spawn is so close there for the defense. Still a great push there from Yeah We Lost. Going into overtime just barely, you know, very early on there on point 3 on that whole street space. So shout out to them making it through all the way, and shout out even more to Nightmare switching up the composition and finding something that works as we see Light with that change. We saw Fantastic at one point. We saw the Star-Lord. Monster was on the Hulk. A bunch of stuff was changed up, but they were able to find a way to shut them down.
It looks like the wild card of different heroes that we saw from our first map, Shib. It continues to bleed into the second map. I mean, talk about a juggle circus, too. With the Hulk plays that we're seeing, people are able to find Jitward still trying to roll out on the Spider-Man, even though it didn't really get that much playtime at the very end there. But it was Nightmare, who also had Light swap at such a good opportunity. He reset the ultimate over to that 50% mark, but then was able to get that Galactic Legend so fast.
Yeah, that Galactic Legend was massive too. You saw it was a 3-piece, and then the final pick was down to like 10 HP before he gets picked off. So no matter what, the value was there, and it ended up giving them the W. They're forcing people off the cart, and again, that cart you have to stand on top of the tube there in order to keep it moving. So just big value. It did work out in the end, but the question is, was that enough? Did they stop them soon enough, or will Nightmare be able to push all 3 points?
2, 1.
Let's find out here, or will it just be a dream before, Yeah We Lost are committing to this Thor on defense. Interesting. I mean, they do have that triple Vanguard setup, though, with Sandstorm and Kendrick being on that strat line. Zatex has been able to pop off. Mace already burned up on that bubble, trying to isolate them and their cutoff. We're also seeing Monster just trying to block out where Yeah We Lost want to jump through with these Groot walls. Uh-oh.
The off angle here from Jit. We're just waiting for the call, and that's called setting up for dive, folks. A lot of people don't understand dive has 2 phases. We see the commitment now from Mace, able to find Xantho. Light onto Kendrick, and the numbers are dwindling as Nightmare now is going to sweep the side of Yeah We Lost. We try to hold very aggro here right at the spawn, but not for too long as we see everyone go down. And in the off angle, I do believe it's Jitward still holding on to hope that he might be able to retake when the team comes back.
We're still seeing the Thor, the Hulk as a team lineup. I mean, Yeah We Lost now. Having to see if they can try to recontest, because Jitward does have the ultimate online, trying to look behind them. There's still that one member that's right here isolated, trying to force out a stagger.
How is Jitward still okay? Zatex finds one here, and that's insane. As Jitward does fall, but at that point the numbers are even. He got value. The whole team had to turn around there, and the cart wasn't able to move too much. Usually, I don't think that's the greatest play, but Jitward made it work and held on to the hope that he was going to be able to stay healthy, even when everybody was looking at him after a pick came through. So shout out there. I can't believe that worked. As we
playing like a whole different game.
Yeah.
Not only with the retake here, too, he stalled up for as long as possible, like you mentioned, and that gives a lot of time for the rest of Yeah We Lost to try to regroup together. Jitward will be able to come back just as quickly. Zatex really close to the Apex Predator before Light finds the Thor. The Itch Jeff comes out. A trade-off from both sides. Kendrick now uses the Itch Jeff. Who did he take up, though? That's the question before Zatex manages to bounce away and find Skier.
And we see a change in comp here as Monster's pulling out the Groot. The idea is to check their damage and see if they can burn some of these walls. Cart able to find one there onto Light. And once again, Nightmare will have ult advantage in this next fight, but they need to regroup. Down a number right now. See if they can pull this off.
It's looking so messy here, though. Maybe trying to force out a lamp as the Hulk tries to dive back on the backline. Mace trying to help heal for them. The invisible boundary now comes out, and rather aggressive because it goes in with a Venn diagram of both invisible boundaries. Skier trying to back away. Monster had already used up that strangling prison, and at least it stops Cart from trying to get a reset.
Vision finding one here. Got a Thunder lands. Jitward goes down as Vision takes out another. 2 numbers down for the moment. Nightmare should have the ability to move this forward as 3 fall. We see Zatex able to take out Light, this time on the other side, almost like a spawn switch here, but the point is moving forward, and they're going to be able to wall this off for the meantime. Will they be able to get a touch here? 3 meters and counting. Yes, the portal comes through, and another battle will ensue. But you see Skier, eyes behind, making sure not much can happen onto Xantho.
Wait, Suansu Violence, though, in the back while they both try to deal with their 1v1s now, but the rest of Nightmare had a sustain from deep because the God of Mischief had already been activated. Light rolls out now on that Spider-Man before trying to dive in. Skier gets the double KO, and that was with Skier trying to take control and the split focus from Santha from Yeah We Lost.
Yeah, I mean, that was some really clean plays, some things to call out. You talked about Light making that switch over to Spider-Man to get back to point quickly, but also Monster, when they use that portal, just sets up with Groot, puts a bunch of walls around, plays it slow, takes the high ground, and just does a ton of raw neutral damage with those walls around. And they just did not have the damage to be able to burst them down in that fight. They just couldn't focus those because they needed to worry about points. So good idea there with the Groot, as we see the Ironwood wall get deleted immediately.
Oh. We are seeing it. We're seeing it. We're seeing the Spider-Man ditto. The Apex Predator, though, is at the top of the food chain because Zaytex has found 3. So Light, unfortunately, has got to reset with the rest of his team and said, all right, you know what? We heard it with some insider info ship. Light may not want to go and try to match that, or it could have been Jitward that may not want to match with Light, but then forces Light now to go back over to the Mort so that way he can provide more value to his backline.
Yeah, the idea now is just to counter it, try to find a way to stop some of this dive. We talk about how Phoenix can do a good job of it, but very much Namor is in that conversation as well. You can see the way offside angle there of Kendrick, and that's what I'm talking about with this Jeff, healing through the duelist line of the opposition, healing your team and dealing damage at the same time. Light able to find Cart, though, and the Cart is moving now, as we see Monster with a nice pick there on the Groot. Now keeping eyes backwards towards Kendrick, who's just living in that back line with ult available, by the way.
Monster is playing out of his mind, by the way. Like, the Groot swap up when they were coming out of the attack was such a good idea, especially when you're going down these lanes in the Museum of Contemplation. Tries to stop the Elsa, though, moving back. Nanto's very close to that invisible boundary, but Kendrick tries to be the counter to Skier, who calls in their own invisible boundary. Not inside of it for now, but did get out of the invisibility, comes right back around up on the high ground, and Monster could use the Wombo combo together with Light and the Horn of Proteus.
Ult advantage, got to be roughly even here. Just slightly in favor of, yeah, we lost. Skeeter, though, with that first pick is huge. Jitward did have ult available, but as Spidey-Mans like to say, he will be back fast. So you just kind of tune it out of your brain because you know they will be there shortly. A huge whale going to land right on a Card who goes down to about 5 HP and is gone now. Monster with a huge ultimate here. The Strangling Prison going to find one onto the strategist line of Kendrick. Vision onto Card to clean that up. The Zaytex now finds one to try to even the odds a bit. But at this point, it's still in favor of Nightmare. Can they keep this up in the boundary? Glartrox goes out. This could be massive, fighting 2, but the walls stop him. Is it enough? Yes, the walls were enough, and Vision now gets that pick. Masked one on to Dinks and Mace onto Xantho, and once more Nightmare still up, but oh my goodness, Jitward and Mask cannot be stopped.
Oh, there's only so much one crew can do. Monster went absolutely insane, but Jitward said he had 99 wood cutting, so he takes them down in one sweep.
Yeah, this is insane. I cannot believe that retake right there from Yeah, we lost. Being down heavy in numbers, commitment came through from Nightmare. In terms of ultimates, nobody has ults available yet. Kendrick and Vision going to be the closest. We know how big the Glartrox can be here for Vision. That might be the win condition, as Kendrick will likely be the win condition as well for Yeah, we lost. Jitward, though, are you joking? Vision able to find Jitward, but he takes the pick out onto Skier. Kendrick on a Dinks, both strategist down here for Nightmare with 5 seconds on. That may be too much.
That was so worth it, though, for Jitward. Yeah, you get the trade-off, but that's what you take out Skier, and Skier was kind of close to that invisible boundary. At least would have gotten it for this fight alone. Now, here comes Zaytex. Also, server admin is here to play. Looking back, playing around the other side of that bubble, and there's only so much stall time you can provide before Light tries to portal in overtime.
Wow, and we have ourselves a 1-1 here, folks. This is going to go to game 3 already on our first matchup of the day. The dive teams, the super aggro squads have duked it out, and we will find out who comes out on top in a moment.
Yeah, we lost more like, yeah, we won, bringing us to this game 3 in our first match of the day. Shib, when we closed out day number 1 just yesterday, we were talking about this. We knew that day number 2 was an opening banger, and we got it. Game number 3, when we saw a lot of 2-0s go down just yesterday into that last series, has provided us a great series. Kendrick, once again, though, the Jeffs prevail, and it's this time Kendrick who's the MVP.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Kendrick struggled a little bit on domination on that first map, but then coming back with a vengeance here. 48 assists, 29 eliminations, 4 finals, 48k healing on the Jeff. The next closest being 39. I mean, that is some strong play, and we're like we called out the positioning in that backline, healing through the team towards his team, just doing so much at the same time, enabling, 12, almost 13k damage as well.
And we were talking about it too, right? We were like wondering, okay, well, you got to really start waking up, making sure that you're able to at least have some of that sustainability. Jitward rolling out on the Spider-Man, though, like try to make something happen, went over to the Namor, and unfortunately could not really help them out because they were really spread out. I think that one big Glartrox, though, from Zaytech really helped enable the disruption onto Nightmare, despite how close they were from trying to stop them. But the series goes on, everybody. Don't go anywhere because on the other side of this break, we got game number 3 for our first series.
These two teams are duking it out. Yeah, we lost one Museum of Contemplation and they tie up the series. Is it your shirt speaking this into existence, Vicky? Like, I don't know.
Guys, I don't know. The Jeff plays be out here. Kendrick was going crazy too. He literally went down like 3 times, and that was in a matchup where, you know, you look at the other side to be the strategist and to have Loki get baited out with Lance constantly and think about, well, how much of a choice do you have, right? You got Cart diving onto you, got Jitward on Spider-Man. It's difficult. And then you got a Glartrox just making you look like a chameleon from one direction, looking in the other because your team is all gone. But apparently at the very end, you know, what we're looking at the Jeff, it's Jeff, they had 2 waves of security. Yeah, we lost was on top of everything. They had the first layer of the onion where if they ended up pulling off the portal, they were able to get the It's Jeff off. If they didn't pull off the portal, well, guess what? It was canceled instead because I think Xanthos wanted his time to shine, and I believe canceled the portal. I was looking over to the right side to see if it was maybe Jitward, but, you know, the Invisiwoman's be coming out to play when it's their time to shine. They want to be the ones to sit on the driver's seat, maybe have their own spotlight here, Shib, but it was a very enjoyable game, still very unorthodox composition, so I'm kind of understanding what Mace said when he said, this is going to be an unorthodox composition, team v team.
Yeah, I mean,
how did you feel about the bans, though?
Yeah, the bans were good. I liked the removal, honestly, that was unique. The removal of Strap Pool was definitely something that was definitely targeted, right, towards, yeah, we lost. It clearly didn't work for them. They still ended up going Duelist Pool. So I think the idea in the future is if you're going to do that, maybe just get rid of Duelist Pool. But hey, I don't know. Maybe that's a downside there for Nightmare. But yeah, outside of that, removal of Gambit across the board is pretty consistent. No more Daredevil. That's all the right play. But again, I think if you just pick something else besides that Strap Pool ban, maybe it goes in your favor, but I'm sure we'll see in a moment if they do just that.
I liked the back and forth though we had again, right? This was not really a one-sided affair. I mean, Nightmare, they were switching things up heavily to stop, yeah, we lost on their attack run there, and it really just came down to those last-minute switches in overtime with Light, like going over to that Star-Lord to make it work for Nightmare. But yeah, I don't know, man. This is such a coin toss. Like, if you'd asked me to give you preds for this, I don't know who's coming out on top. I think they're very evenly matched.
Yeah, and I was saying, like, the team fights, they're just, a lot of times in Ignite, when teams are still feeling each other out, they'll play front to back, and even with Dive, you'll see more setup. But with these two teams, it is just like a mosh pit. Everybody is going after each other, full committing 24/7. And I mean, you can see their observers even try to keep track of everything going on. There's just so much going on. The only, like, bit of consistency we saw was when Monster went over to Groot to slow things up a little bit and try to just shut down some of these LOSs that the backline had. And even then, there was just still Jitward a mile away in the back corner, and they were chasing him. It's just, these teams, man, are so coordinated, so unique. It is a ton of fun to watch.
It really is. And a Monster, by the way, a huge standout from your map 1 already there on that Captain America. Did so much for the team. I am very excited to see what both teams have in store for us on this last and final map. I am, however, disappointed, not angry, but a little bit disappointed that they chickened out of the Spider-Man ditto much. Like, why would you do that? We had it for a second there.
I was waiting for it, Zoe. I wanted to see it. I know everybody at home wanted to see it too, but they wanted to see if they could maybe change things up because Jitward, although he was going crazy, that backline needed some help, Chib.
Yeah, I mean, that's the tricky part of running any sort of strategist into a dive composition. A lot of the time we joke about the Animal Crossing backline, right? You go that Rocket, you go that Jeff, but it's not because they're quote unquote the best dive strategists. It's because they can just hold on to their lives a little bit longer before they just get chased down and get taken out on the KO feed. But we are diving into the ban phase now, and off the rip again, removing some of that dive potential. Goodbye to Daredevil.
Okay, Shin Shibuya. I did ask about this map. That was one of the questions that I really wanted to highlight. Like, will we see Shin Shibuya when I was talking to Mason? He said he was thinking about it. Probably not. We're here on Shin Shibuya, so we got to have some plans up our sleeves with the Gambit being protected from Nightmare's side. So a different outlook here now that they can have the Gambit unleashed.
Yeah, I think that's something that worked for them. Obviously, map 1, we're going to see what it looks like now. We're going to see the removal of likely Gambit here, if not Elsa. Yep. So it is going to be Elsa instead. And we know that there will be a heavy lock-in of that Elsa likely on their side if they think they can run it better. But again, these teams have done unique stuff. So some of the stuff I'm used to calling here for this top side of the Elo, yeah, it's going to be a Gambit lock. So another decent pick there for them, trying to match that right back, which means we might see the Loki removal. So you don't hear 2 of those gambling charges, the Raging Royal Flush, but we'll see in a moment.
I'm excited though, because if we do get to see the Gambit, you could only imagine the Magneto and Rogue team up too that could follow. This is one of the best maps, by the way, for Daredevil. So for any of you guys watching at home that may get away with running a Daredevil in your own respective rank games, well, this is definitely a map to do it if it doesn't get auto-banned. But you usually end up saying the Daredevil ban no matter what, whether it be in the MRI or back at home where you guys play. But the Rogue is the next one to get out. Also wondering here if you're going to have to be forced to ban out the Magneto, because Magneto also just deals so much of that damage output too with that team up.
Yeah, I like the Magneto team up for sure. I don't think it's as valuable as Rogue. We are going to see the removal of Vanpool. I do think that's not a bad decision there from We Lost. Nightmare just loves to run that hero. Honestly, so does every team in Ignite. Just an incredibly strong hero in the current meta. The removal now of Elsa deep into the banning phase. Again, definitely different than what we've seen in the past, but these teams don't run traditional stuff. And that's why I don't even think, even if Loki gets through, we're going to see the Loki, the double Raging Royal Flush, because these teams just don't really need to run it. It doesn't find as much value, even though I do think there's a lot of high LOSs for Loki, a lot of escapability. This is the kind of his map to find success. It's also very much a lane focused map. So Jeff, which has been locked in here from We Lost, is getting value. And once again, will be seen.
I like that you bring that up, right? We had that in our interview just yesterday after Energy had popped off. You got to watch out for that Loki sometimes. And Loki on this map, aside from Daredevil, is also just so good at taking different angles. But it's a Jeff Protect from We Lost. They want to keep enabling Kendrick. It's the Jeff. I have to say it, Shib.
Yeah, and there is going to be that lock of Rogue, and I'm excited to have eyes on that. I get to see a little bit of the value of that team up that we've been talking about. You'll see those AoE pulses of damage, especially in these dive formats. You can be such a problem. It has so much escapability and a bunch of different cooldowns just for movement, so hard to keep eyes on. You see light floating now, the blade. I don't think that'll be a pick that's going to come through, but does play well with a Groot ultimate in the current meta. You can see Jitward floating the Panther. I would love to see some of this stuff, but we'll see what they actually select as they come out of the spawn door in a moment.
I love this. This has been an entirely different game, honestly, Shave. Like, just the best banger that you could try to open up the day with for anybody trying to see what their pick'ems are looking like, what the meta is looking like. Even in an interview that we had, Justin and Mia, our player was just basically talking about how a lot of these teams across all these different regions are kind of still finding their footing within the current meta. And remember, everybody at home, this is before the Fox buff. So they are playing on the patch right before that. So we're going to be seeing a completely different look for the teams that may find more of that comfortability in rocking that Fox going into next weekend's matches.
Yeah, Fox's new balance patch has really enabled her to be a huge problem. Already, Fox does a great job in dueling various dive duelists. For example, like Matt Murdock. I mean, can just be one of the very few strategists in the game that actually can win a 1v1 due to the nature of having that melee form, which constantly gives her healing and is actually enough to outpower the damage from Daredevil, which is a rare thing in the game right now. So just shows the power of this character. Also can make huge plays. Like we saw yesterday, Valentina had a couple picks in the neutral with the character playing aggro and just diving with your front line, like we'll see here in a moment with Cart on that Hulk. The counter pull comes through.
They called it out! They called it out! That's why you put the Magneto bubble on him. It went down, and you just see Doctor Strange go out of left field. but it is Yaoi lost with the counter portal to hold back Nightmare, and as they fall like a line of dominoes, that game plan is put to rest with a 3-minute cooldown on a Doctor Strange portal and a stagger.
Clean play there, and this is just a 4 stagger at this point, waiting for the last possible moment to find Monster there. 3 minutes and 22, still plenty of time. A lot of the times, folks, when you are attacking this map, you're going to break the left side structure of the walls and actually attack from around these buildings and not down that alleyway. That alleyway gives the defense such a strong side. As you see them breaking the walls now, like we were just discussing, and trying to head left and switching the map on them, because again, you're in such a disadvantageous position if you're attacking right down the center. Now the commitment's going to be right at the spawn door, though. Is there going to be value there? Is Cart and Jipward able to find 2 right at the doors? And that is some serious commitment as Light now falls as well. Well done by Cart and Jipward to chase them down.
Off of the sleep too from Zaytex, who's getting away with these damage boosts too. This is brutal. I mean, even looking at Nightmare's composition as they're rolling out with this, remember, Nightmare is the one that wanted to try to go into Shin Shibuya for this last map, as they did lose out on that previous second map against Yaoi lost, and they're really struggling and forcing their way through this choke, with Mason needing to swap over to the Angela, trying to get disruptive and trying to harass his backline.
Yeah, more commitment now as everybody is on point. You see Dinks in a great position here with Gambit holding this high side, just protecting now the back line and keeping Jitward away just barely, as Light's able to find one once more. Nightmare now looking up at Mask, says not up in here, and gets rid of Monster. A huge eye potential, doesn't seem to land though, and that's from Kendrick on the retake. See now, there's not going to be any portal cooldowns, so they were committed early on. The dive coming in from Mace to push them back into this alleyway, and that might be enough if he gets this ult off, but no, it gets shielded off, so nobody gets caught. The idea was to lock them in there so they could get point, but it gets shielded by Hulk. What a play.
Talk about frame perfect on the bubbles. That was insane, actually. Vision looking at all the chaos and disruptors happening right below their feet, having to know, all right, well, now I got to reset here. Let's see if I can even get back over to the spawn room gates. Mace, though, has provided a lot more, despite, you know, the Heaven's Retribution unfortunately not landing its mark, thanks to Cart just having godlike reaction. Has not been able to really find that disruption, but has found some signs of life in trying to go in together. And Nightmare have these 5 ultimates online to follow up with this Rage and Royal Flush.
The Gambit advantage begins, and the idea now is to find Invis. Mask able to take out Dinks instantly, is going to get rid of that ultimate, though. Are you kidding me? We see Zaytex find Mace. Vision, Light, though, are going to be able to find 2. Is that going to be enough? Can they clean this up? Out goes the It's Jeff now, but nobody lands. Skier likely using that to just escape in the moment, try to avoid a little bit of the damage, but is getting chased here by Strange and Jitward now, who made the switch already. Oh, no, that's Mask, excuse me, onto Strappool. I just made an assumption. It was incorrect now. Down goes the Beast, the Abyss. 1,700 HP. What a land there. As Jitward now is trying to find another, and down goes Skier. 40 seconds in counting, and the point still holding before the third.
This is like my worst nightmare. This is like seeing my sleep paralysis demon play out right before my eyes, and it is in the form of Jitward Spider-Man. Now you wonder, okay, what are the changes that Nightmare needs to do, because this isn't working out. Their backline is literally getting terrorized.
Yeah, I mean, Dinks just dove a little too hard there with the Rage and Royal Flush. On that Gambit, launched the ultimate and committed heavily towards the backline, hoping the team would do the same, and gets picked instantly, and that removes the ult from everybody else. You just got to be a little more careful, especially with teams at this level. The idea was there, it just didn't quite work out. Now more commitment goes out as the bubble gets launched, and ult advantage going to be in Yaoi Lost favor, as they are trying to hold with 3 seconds on.
With less than 2 seconds to go, though, they gotta recontest here. Have to force it into overtime. Kendrick does have the Eye of Agamotto already on that Doctor Strange, just in case, but it's ticking away as they're trying to regroup on the points. They make it with the Angela. The Eye of Agamotto only finds Monster this time around, and Light is flying around. Dinks needs to wait to get this Rage and Royal Flush, but he won't see the light of day to have it into fruition. The Jeff meets its maker, backs down to the lobby, as Yaoi Lost are clearing this point and holding their feet on this defense.
Wow, wow, wow. A lot of clean plays there from Yaoi Lost on defense. Nightmare just kind of crumbling after certain conditions. There were times where they were up in numbers, committing ultimates, and it looked good. But somehow, Yaoi Lost was able to retake point and ensure it was not capped. What a bunch of plays there, again, by Yaoi Lost, who now has to attack. One thing to highlight there is Nightmare just kind of kept... you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But it was broken. They didn't fix it. They just kept walking it right down the same main line and losing somebody early. And then Jitward had free reign on the back line while everybody was committing on point. It was like they tried to drive them back into the arcade, but weren't able to get any value. And if they did, somebody traded for it. So at that point, it was even. I don't know. I think they needed to break that left side like they did initially and try to just slow things up and play at range. But elected to not just do that, as we will see now if Yeah We Lost can perform a little bit better.
Yeah, I gotta echo that, Shiv, because that's the most difficult part when it comes to Shin Shibuya. Yes, this is our new map within the MRI, but obviously a map that has been within Marvel Rivals for, since the beginning here. And it's really difficult to get through that choke, and that's what really forces a lot of teams to have to start changing up their strategy. Where can you go? Try to split more of that attention. Go through these buildings here, too. Jitward split most of that attention away from the team, and guess what? Nightmare, they're switching things up at least this time around on the defense because they got dinks on the low-key.
Yeah, and shout out to the huge plays. We obviously saw the bubble there from Cart on defense, the frame perfect bubble like you were talking about, but then he was also just following up on a lot of that dive and getting picks onto things like the Jeff attack. And now Nightmare is going to have to try something cheeky and just change up their play style, play heavily bunker comp here and just protect the strategists from some of this dive while they play inside of this arcade.
You think, try to harass this backline that we saw earlier from Yeah We Lost, but the thing is no one could even get to the backline, not even the Angela. Her one wing was clipped and Monster gets hit with an anti before trying to back away. Look how much damage he just took. Zatex with a nail in the coffin before wrapping up. Yeah We Lost. They're looking onto that point, and one by one, as Nightmare falls, Monster is forced to swap over to the thing, but notes, all right, they're way too close right now. We're dropping down. We may have to portal back in here on this defense.
Vision able to find Jitward there. The portal does come through. They should have time, as we see Cart back in hold form. Mace making the switch there to Thing. Like you discussed, the idea, again, is to keep the bunker going, but now the portal cooldown was already forced out. Great commitment there from the side of Xantho, using that anti onto the front line of, Monster, who was on that Groot, and the whole team just putting a ton of damage in while that anti was out. You see that extra damage. Light able to find Kendrick with some nice shots there, just trying to build towards that ultimate to have the res available for his team. And again, the whole idea is for this team to stack inside here and win as their bunker comp, ensuring somebody is touching point at all times.
Light quickly looking at the mirror as the Spider-Man flies from his back line and makes sure that he's gonna have to take him down himself. He's had enough. And with Skier using that invisible boundary, though, was that worth it? I mean, getting a little worried with the way that Jitward's been flying around them, but that's going to be something that Nightmare may need to rely on. At least Dinks has that God of Mischief, expecting it fully. But yeah, We Lost are playing very spread out here, just waiting it out.
Xantho prepping for the attack, and here goes the Raging Royal Flush. The commitment comes in from Xantho. Will this be too much commitment, or playing a little safer here? Good idea. The commitment comes through his Mace now, though. Turns it on Jitward. Dinks with a great invisible boundary. It's Jeff comes through from Kendrick. It's a big counter for invisible boundary. Does it find value? Can they shut it down? Everybody now trying to find where the Shark is. The Shark does escape for the moment. Not sure it got too much value currently, and Mace now retakes point. No ticks have been taken yet, but Cart finds Dinks, the Born Again from Light, and it does get shut down quickly. Light just holding on for the moment as Cart gets a triple, make it a quadra. Come on now, Cart. That should do it. What a play there by Cart.
Welcome to the circus. Cart and Hulk are here to play, and yeah, We Lost. They wipe out Nightmare in our first intense series of the day.
Yeah, I mean, just went bunker comp on defense and said, you know what, how about we just go straight in there with Hulk, commit our Hulk ultimate, and just sweep everyone. And Cart able to find 4, even shutting down Light on that res right after it was committed. The idea there, folks, is you need to go back into your body form and walk forward, keeping the team ready to res, because you actually res off of the body of Warlock, not in the location of the ultimate. So yeah, I mean, just clean plays there by Cart, showing up with 9 finals, most in the lobby, masked with the MVP though.
Oh my goodness, what did we just witness between the Psylocks coming out, Zatex popping off, Jitward was doing Spider-Man things, harassing them. Look, even with that stat line, the amount of impact Jitward had being on Spider-Man was so much that it disrupted that backline to the point that they had to completely change their strategy. Forced out Thing, forced out Namor, forced out Loki to the Adam Warlock composition, just that way you could have those lamps. They were holding it down, Shib, but yeah, We Lost. Everybody's eyes were on this MRC team, and they came and they performed. Mass did not go down, by the way, a single time.
Yeah, and I just want to shout out again Kendrick. I mean, Kendrick struggled a little bit on map 1, like we'd mentioned. Popped off on map 2, and again, most damage in the lobby, or yeah, actually, almost in the entire lobby, but on his team with Jeff, right? So that is just some serious play. And again, just finding the best angle to hit as many people as possible with that primary on Jeff. Jeff has been taking a push forward in terms of the meta due to this neutral change, and his neutral is just so good. Shout out and congrats again to Yeah We Lost coming out on top. But what a battle there from Nightmare. I'm looking forward to this matchup again in the future.
Yeah, same here. Because, you know, a lot of people were wondering, okay, how is Yaoi Lost going to fare against the MRI teams, right? Nightmare having so many veterans, Yaoi Lost also consisting of individual veterans themselves. But putting together this team and having fun with it is also really important. And that's something else that I want to pinpoint. Yaoi Lost, I know that George himself has made a lot of content. He posted the winning comms of the moment that they won MRC. And this is a team that has definitely been finding themselves in the right amount of vibes. All good vibes here for this squad. And you can tell that they're having a good time just looking at these highlights alone on Shin Shibuya.
Yeah, I think mental is such a important part of this game. I mean, any hero shooter, but mental is very much because you just want to believe that you can get it done. It's just like any sort of sport in the future or anything you play, excuse me. If you believe you can do it, you can do it. If you're doubting yourself at all times, you're going to struggle as a unit. And these teams believe they can get it done. They're having a good time. If you saw some of their comms in the MRC, they were playing air horns after their KOs. It was ridiculous, but it just shows you they're having a good time and making things happen. Shout out to Yeah, we lost. Now, yeah, we won.
Never mind. I said a lot of insightful things. Rest assured. Anyway, what I did say, like long story short, is I'm very impressed at the fashion they closed this one out because the first two maps were so evenly matched, and for them to just kind of run away with it here at the very end on Shin Shibuya, that was very impressive. It did seem to me that Nightmare kind of lost some steam. They made adjustments, like a lot of adjustments in map 1 and 2. I feel like in map 3 they started to just kind of run at a wall.
Yeah, I think
it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when you see a team on defense like make a major change in composition, we talk about it all the time. It's either a testament to something that they studied and really worked on, or it's the idea that they're kind of in panic mode. And you saw they're running that triple backline, they're running the Atom, which hasn't found too much success in Ignite as a whole so far. It just shows me the team was kind of, you know, they did enter that panic mode. They were just trying to find a way to essentially cheese through their comp.
Yeah, I also feel like it's insane to see that, like, that was Nightmare's map pick, right? And they were the ones that chose to come out of the attacking side. Like, that's a big highlight. That's why I was wondering, okay, well, we'll be seeing Shin Shibuya. It's a preference depending on what type of composition that these teams really hail on. And it's a map that actually would benefit on paper both of these teams, except, yeah, we lost just played it so much better. I feel like starting on the attack is pretty difficult on Shin Shibuya. It's like what Shib was saying. You want to break through that building over to the left side. You're at such a narrow choke that you're trying to force a split attention so that way maybe you could get an opening on one of the strategies in the back line. That's why we saw those changes going in from Angela, trying to brute force your way in, but then you have to look behind you to make sure that your strats are also protected because Jitward is juggling like he's in Cirque du Soleil with these webs. And it makes it really hard to help with your sustain, but I did not see any opportunity to dive onto that back line even once. And if it was because they were out of position, a little push forward, and I think they only went down like maximum twice. So it was pretty hard to even come out of the attack choke by that point.
Yeah, when you're Nightmare now, tomorrow you will be facing off against, I believe, SSG. What's your takeaway from today? Is there anything that you feel on such a short turnaround you can like work on? Or was it just that, yeah, we lost, popped off at the end there with like Card on Hulk and like, I mean, it was a slaughter, right? So...
Yeah, it's tricky, right? Because it's so early on in Ignite where these teams are still having their first experience on the big stage, a lot of eyes on them. And then there's moments where comms get hectic, especially when you're down. I think the team showed up like very strong in domination. I liked what they were thinking. Even on map 2 there, you know, in the museum, they looked very strong. They struggled a little bit on their attack. But I mean, as a whole, it's just going to develop with time. We're going to identify where they're struggling with time. But I do think maybe it was a mental issue where they did have to make those switches in comp. They got less confident in their dive because the dive was working in their favor at sometimes. Once they've switched things up, it just stopped working for them.
Yeah, yeah, we lost next opponent. Ooh, Lunix. Oh, they're gonna feel good about tomorrow's match. I'm excited to see that one because Lunix is also a team that definitely impressed us with their performance on day one, even though they did not win it. Now, if you're Lunix and you just watched that game, what's your homework? What do you have to have ready in order to get it up tomorrow?
Hulk. Hulk. Card is in. Bruce Banner held the door and like walked Nightmare out essentially. Like that was such an insane highlight for the very end there. He went crazy. He was able to land so many of those stuns and the follow-ups too. It was like, kind of like the chef's kiss because you add in that disruption. It makes it even harder to try to reset.
Right, so now we've just gotten word that we are ready for our post-match interview. We should have Card, the legend himself, joining us for a quick chat. Welcome to the show. Nice to see you again.
Hello.
First of all, congratulations. What an incredible, dominant way that you just closed this last map out. And it was on your opponent's map pick. What do you think facilitated this kind of dominance at the very end of the otherwise very close series?
I think they got scared on Museum. They started just picking random heroes out of desperation. So they picked Shin Shibuya. I don't know why, but we could tell they were really scared after they lost Museum. So we knew they were going to do something stupid.
I love it. I got to shout this out too for the chat. I mean, Cart earlier on was actually our test interview, and he said, "I'll be back in a little bit, or I'll see you in a little bit." And I was like, "Dude, that is aura." He comes right back, and here he is taking on the W. Man, I got to ask for those who maybe haven't had a ton of experience with your team. Can you walk us through how the structure of the team works? Who's running bands? Who's running comms? Stuff like that.
Kendrick and Jibward are the two big brains behind everything. They both had like very big careers in Overwatch. They know how team-based shooters work very well, more than anybody else in this game at the moment. And then everybody else on the team just kind of throws out random ideas. Zatex is very experienced. Mask is a genius. Santa's really smart. But usually Kendrick and Joe were leading most of it.
Awesome.
Oh man, Cart, I just gotta say, man, just the fact that you were going crazy on Hulk and you already knew that you were gonna talk to us at the end of the series. Chef's kiss on the confidence and the vibes of your team. I mean, looking forward, you guys had so many unorthodox compositions rolling out. Do you think any other teams may have a struggle in the pick and ban phase when they go against your team specifically, without revealing too much, obviously, because you don't want to let them know? But do you think that you guys actually have a pretty wide hero pool to work off of where you don't have to really worry about that stuff?
Yeah, I don't think any team can win a draft against us. It's been same thing for a while. Ever since we've had this roster, it's impossible to draft against us because we play everything in the game.
We love to hear that, and we love to see that on the server moving forward as well. I gotta let you go and celebrate and rest up for tomorrow's match. Best of luck in that one, and thanks once again for joining us.
Thank you.
Good talking to you, buddy. Congrats.
Great to hear from Card. What an incredible performance from the team. And I just love to hear that kind of confidence in post-match interviews. Also just, you know, the trust, the blind trust, if you will, into the rest of your team. Just like wrinkly brains across the board, it sounds like. Super interesting to hear who's kind of taking the leading voices in those draft situations and for like the bans and locks, because yeah, this one was, there were a lot of layers to it.